If you're an owner of a growing company and you're still, let's say, the best salesperson, you failed as a leader. There's no other way to say it. You should honestly be embarrassed by the fact that you're the number one person on your board, not proud of it.
Yeah.
Every home improvement business starts the exact same way. You're the best at what you do. You're the best salesperson or the best installer. You know the product better than anyone else. And because you're the best, the business grows. But then you hit a wall.
Yeah. And that wall, it's you. We call it the craftsman trap. The very thing that made you successful in the beginning, your obsession with doing everything yourself because nobody else can do it as well as you. This is the exact thing that will choke the life out of your company as you try to grow it.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Fitz and Franson Show. I'm Fitz.
Yep, I'm Franson.
And this is a show where we strip away the fluff, ignore the hype. There's not much of it, Jay, and get to the core of what it actually takes to win in business and in life.
Yeah, for sure. We're not here to tell you what you want to hear. We're here to tell you what you probably need to hear. Chaos is normal in business, but staying there is ultimately a choice. We want to help you build something that lasts without lying to yourself along the way.
So today we're going to be talking about maybe one of the hardest transitions any leader has to make. We're going to break down why you have to stop being the hero, how you end up needing to let go of control, and why your business will never scale until you accept that like an 80% solution executed by your team quickly is better than 100% solution slowly executed by you.
Yeah. And the tension here really is ego. So let's just call it what it is, Fitz. When an owner is out in the field closing deals, they get that, that dopamine hit, that high, they get the adrenaline of the one call close. They get the homeowner say, wow, you really know your stuff. This stuff, it feels good to be the hero.
Sure. But that high will eventually fade away. And when you're the hero that's sitting there, your team, all they're really doing, Jay, is they're just watching you. And if you're the primary closer for your company, you don't have a sales team. You have a group of assistants who maybe occasionally are writing a contract when you're too busy. Right. So if the owner is closing 50% or more of the revenue in a business, it's incredibly fragile.
Yep. And really, from a marketing perspective, it ends up creating a nightmare, right? Marketing wants to scale lead volume, but if we turn the dial up and generate 100 new leads this month, the owners, they physically can't run all those appointments. Leads get handed to, we're going to call them untrained reps who just burn. Close rate drops. The owner says, see, I'm the only one who can close these. The marketing must be bad.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But the unfortunate reality is that the owner in this situation or leader in this situation has created a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? They don't train their people properly and the people fail. And then the owner gets to step back and into the situation and save the day. Right. And it ends up becoming an exhausting cycle. And it's one of the biggest reasons why we see some growing companies end up hitting that plateau they can't push through. So look, Jay, here's, I guess, my hot take for the day. If you're an owner of a growing company and you're still, let's say, the best salesperson like we're talking about here in the building, you failed as a leader. There's no other way to say it. You should honestly be embarrassed by the fact that you're the number one person on your board, not proud of it.
And I got to be honest, Fitz, I think that this could make quite a few people mad, but it's true. The goal of leadership should always be replacement. If you haven't built a system to replace yourself, you haven't built a business, you've just built a pretty stressful job.
Well put, sir. Yeah, I hear it, well, I guess both of us hear it all the time too, but, they say like, Fitz, well, my guys just can't close like I can, right? Well, my question back to that would be, whose fault is that? And I think what we see time and time again here, Jay, is, the answer to the questions of like, did you document any kind of process? Did you, slow down the price presentation and teach them anything around like the psychology of what you were doing or the psychology of a one call close process? Or did you just like tell them to watch what you were doing or hand them a brochure and then go, all right, good luck to you. Go sell some shit. Right.
Yeah.
And if they can't close after that, it's not because they're terrible or bad salespeople. It's because you're a terrible coach.
Yeah, I'm going to do a little plug in here for AI Fitz. I think that a lot of business owners say, I don't have time to write up, the SOPs, or I don't have time to create this stuff. Record yourself, feed it to a good quality AI tool, and let it create the sales training for you. It's going to take you minutes instead of days.
Excellent point.
So Fitz, I know you've coached we're going to say hundreds or thousands of leaders
maybe millions, who knows?
through this exact transition. Million. So if a specific story comes to mind, I'd love to have you tell me about one of those situations where you got to look the owner in the eye and basically tell them that they're the reason the company's stuck. Tell me about that. What happened?
Sure. Well, there's definitely a couple, but sticking on the sales side of the business, we'll stick there, and we'll redact the names, to protect the
Hmm.
innocent, so to speak, right? But this company, they were doing, I think, roughly about like 1.5-ish million in a year, which again, that's nothing to shake a stick at. It's not easy
Hmm.
to get to that level, but that's still that level where you're kind of involved with all of the hustle and all of the day to day. The owner was at that point, if I'm not mistaken, was running, I think, like 2 to 3 sales appointments a day. They had some decent structure on the production side and the marketing side where they could, at least trust partners or people to do some of that stuff. But he was almost solely responsible for the majority of what was going on. So he was working 6 days a week in the sales process, and he was, if not completely there, almost totally burnt out.
Yeah.
So my advice or kind of requirement in our work we were doing together was that he needed to take 30 days and completely stop running leads and just do ride alongs. He had to become a coach and stop being a player. And the look of panic that came over his face
Yeah.
was, I mean, like white, like a gut, like I can't do that.
Mhm.
And he said, well, we're going to lose revenue. Said to him, you might lose some revenue this month, but the goal here is to gain your life back in over the
Yeah.
next year. Right. And the hardest part was really getting him to, honestly, was getting him to keep his mouth shut,
Uh,
which again, I can't say that wouldn't be hard for me as well too, but you got to stay quiet when you're in the house with these reps. So what we saw when he was on these ride alongs time and time again was that a rep would stumble on an objection and he would immediately jump in and take over the presentation. And when I say immediately, like within the first 5 minutes of walking in the door. And so we had to establish some ground rules for him. And I did so with him in front of his people. So they knew they had the right to basically tell him to shut up in the house. Basically, the rule was unless the house is about to burn to the ground, the owner was required to sit on his hands and not speak.
mm,
And it took, I think, roughly call it about 3 months. But once he realized that his guys could actually close deals when he wasn't like saving the day, so to speak, the
mhm.
entire culture of the company shifted, right? There was just this feeling like I'm trusted to do my job. And
Yeah.
the growth that happened for the individuals and the company was really awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the interesting points to kind of pull out from that story is that it took 3 months. I think that it's fun to listen to a podcast like ours, Fitz, and be like, oh, cool. I can just switch. You're like, all right, now sales guys are in charge. And no, it takes time,
It
especially if you want to do it right.
can't tell you how many times we've been on that path. Well, I mean, you and I talk
Mhm.
about this on a pretty regular basis where we give, the advice or the roadmap or the game plan and, check in the following week and they're like, it's not working.
Yeah. Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
did
Text
you have
later
lunch?
that day. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have lunch between the last time we spoke? Like,
Right. Oh, yeah.
it just, you give it a little bit of time before we determine that it's a
Hmm.
garbage plan, right? Let
Yeah.
them run the plays a couple times.
Yeah, you talk about marketing, it's hey, let's change our language or our images or our ad copy or whatever. And you don't go back a day later and say it doesn't work. You
Right.
go, 2 weeks minimum. I tell everybody, run fresh content for 2 weeks minimum. But typically it's 4 to 6 weeks to see what that stuff does. And it's similar to any big upset you're going to do within the organization, as you just need to say, this is going to take a while. And so
Mhm.
I think the reframe here, it's such a big pivot or mindset shift for the owner to go from execution to delegation. So it's not about finding somebody who can do it exactly like you. It's really about finding someone who can get the result using a standardized system that you created. And so the system then actually gets to become the hero, not the person.
Really well put. That's exactly right. I think you got to take the magic out of like the owners or the leader's head and put it into this repeatable framework, right? We even see, and maybe it's not always owners, but the best salesperson or the best installer or the best market gets promoted into the manager's role and like they're just doing all of it because they didn't take the time to sit down and write it down, right? They have
Yeah.
to download all of that information into some sort of repeatable framework that can be handed over to somebody and trained to somebody, right? You gotta put it into like from a sales perspective, you need maybe like just simple uncluttered slides. You need a price presentation, process that forces a rep to slow down and build value, talk about budget rather than just rushing through the numbers. Something that you can go back to when it's not going well and say like, hey, where along these steps did we miss? Did we get off, or did we start doing it a different way? Again, that foundation being written down and pulled out of somebody's head and put it on paper, like I can't stress it enough. It's critical. And
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what
And
department it
for
is.
this conversation, Fitz, we're really talking about that owner being kind of an exemplary salesperson, but there are different avenues that owners come from. I've worked with a lot that are production minded, and so they need to figure out how to get themselves out of there. And so really, what we're talking about is when the system's the hero, other parts of the organization can work better. The marketing can actually scale. Because now when I get to generate a lead, I know it's going into a predictable machine. I don't have to worry about whether the owner is having a good day or a bad day. I just have to make sure I keep feeding that machine.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Look, and the transition from craftsman, like we said earlier, to leader, it's a shift in your identity. You have to be okay with that,
Mhm.
right? You have to stop getting your self worth from like closing the deal or installing the job, and start getting your self worth from watching your team be successful, watching them close deals, watching them get a 5-star review for the install they just did. We're, I guess, you know, always trying to give feedback in ways that you can start putting these things to work for yourself. So here's how you can start breaking out of that craftsman trap this week. Step one, right? I would recommend that you audit your calendar. Track exactly how many hours you're spending doing the work versus coaching the people doing the work. If coaching isn't like at least 30%, and that might even be low, Jay, if it's not at least
Mhm.
30% of your week, you're working in the business and not on it.
Yeah. That's a lofty goal, I think, for a lot of business owners where they just sit there and go, where do I find the time?
Mhm.
Uh, Audit the calendar, step one. And I would say, every 3 months,
Yeah,
re-audit that calendar to see where your time has wandered off to. So that's good. Step two, document the process that you excel at. In our conversation today, Fitz, it's been that owner that's that one call close expert. And so take the time to document it. Don't, it's called the curse of knowledge. I've said this before, but it's where your knowledge is at a 10, your employee's knowledge is at a 1, a 2, or a 3. And so there's this big gap in between where you can't just say, hey, build rapport, right? They
yeah,
don't have all the context around what build rapport actually means. Really, be as specific as possible. Write down exact questions that you find yourself consistently asking when you're in the home. Write down little nuances like the exact way you slow down, the way you present price, and put the stuff on paper. Get it out
for
there.
sure. So step three, and I'm gonna give step three, and then maybe a little bit of a story here along with it that maybe gives people a little bit of confidence. But step three is that you got to stop being the hero, like right now to
Mhm.
today. Okay. So, and here's what that means: the next time one of your people calls you with a problem or a question about what should I do here, you have to stop being the answer person, right? And instead, you have to start being the question person. Ask them, "Well, hey, what does our system say we should do? Or what do you think we should do?" You got to force them to start thinking critically so that they feel confident in making decisions, and they start feeling confident in making decisions within the parameters that you built. So the story that I wanted to share with this, when I first got into leadership, I first got my first role into leadership and coaching, and got the opportunity to train people and work with a team that was by all accounts pretty successful already. But my job is to obviously influence them as well too. My father-in-law, who's been a coach and a leader in business for a long time, and was a military guy. He sent me this video, and it was he if he watches, he's going to be mad at me because I don't remember the rank of the person or
Yeah.
the name of the person, but it was a really really
Mhm.
great video. So it was a naval officer who took over a submarine, and it was the worst scored or rated submarine in the fleet, like as far as execution of drill work, as far as
Sure.
morale, everything. Okay. And in a short period of time, he took that submarine from the worst to far and away the best. And in this speech he's giving, what he said was he recognized that like on a submarine, there's like a million different moving pieces, right? There's the people that are in charge of communication. There's the people that are in charge of, the engine. There's the people that are in charge of the weapons and all of these different things. And the military has invested millions of dollars to train these three guys to be experts in this. And not him, right?
Yeah.
And something breaks down in the machine room and they're coming to him going, sir, we got blah, blah, blah going on. What should we do? And he said, I'm sitting there going, let's do this. Right. And the second it comes out of my mouth, I'm going like, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Right. He's
Yep.
not saying this in the speech, but that's basically what he's
Mhm.
like portraying. He goes,
Yeah.
this is a person that had millions of dollars invested to be educated, to be the expert on this boat about that. Right. And like what I'm doing is they're coming to me and they're saying this. He said, and I'm giving them an answer and they're running back and doing it. It's delaying our response time. It's not the best possible solution. Their morale's down because I'm an idiot who doesn't know what he's talking about and forcing them to do something that's wrong.
Okay.
But we're in the military. I'm supposed to give them orders. But why? Like we already
Mhm.
trained them how to do it. So he flipped his whole philosophy. And when they started coming to him, he would go, man, that sounds like a tough problem. What do you think we should do? And at first, they were looking at him like, you tell me, that's the whole thing here, right? But he stuck to his guns. Like, what do you think we should do? And he made them give him answers. Slowly but surely, they started going, well, I think maybe we should do this. And they go, okay, go do it. And right or wrong, he trusted them to go do it. And most times they would end up being right. Sometimes it'd be wrong, and they'd evaluate why they were wrong afterward. The shift that happened even after that was more impressive. And this is, I think, the thing that has stuck with me. When they would start coming to him a month or two later on, they would go, this is something that happened. These were the things we diagnosed. Here are the three solutions that we could have done. We did this one, blah, blah, blah. And this is what worked. And he was like, great, sounds good. On to the next thing, right? He empowered his people to run the part of the boat that was supposed to be their part of the boat within the guidelines that the military had paid millions of dollars to train them in. And all of a sudden, problems weren't problems. They were just speed bumps that they got over quickly, and morale picked up because like, you trust me to do my job and I'm going to do it as best I can because everybody's relying on me to do it. So apologize. It's a long-winded story for step 3 of stop being a hero. But like the guy taking command of a boat is expected to be the guy that knows all the answers. But how could he? He's not doing that every day. And you're the owner of a company who's not doing installs or sales or marketing every day. Trust your people to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great story. Yeah. And really what you're looking at is your business. It can only grow to the extent to which you're willing to let go of control. And we talk about this a lot, Fitz. You're way better off asking a great question than giving a great command.
No doubt. And look, at the end of the day, I think one of the things that all leaders have in common, at least the ones that you and I have had the opportunity to work with, Jay, is, in some way, shape, or form, the reason they started their business, they did it to gain more freedom in their life, right? To create a different opportunity for them and their families and eventually spend more time with them. And we've said it before, it starts to rob you of that, especially at this level that we're talking about now. And until you take the time to build processes around the things that are holding you from that, then really what you're saying is you're refusing to trust the people that you've put in place. And unfortunately, that idea of freedom and time with your family will remain nothing more than a dream.
It's true. So look, if you're growing a company that needs a partner to build the predictable processes that feed that system, feel free to reach out to us here at Powerful. We're happy to jump on a call with you and do a free audit of the current systems and what's working and what isn't.
No doubt. We're here to help for sure. So look, thanks for tuning in today. Hopefully you guys got some value out of this. And if you did, do us a favor. It goes a long way. Ring the bell, like, subscribe, do all those different things, and share this with another leader who might need to hear it. Sometimes it's hard truth, but it goes a long way. And you can find us on all the different platforms: Spotify, Apple, YouTube, probably too many places for somebody out there.
So always a pleasure, Fitz. Before we go, make sure you tune next time. We're going to be talking about the commodity trap, what many companies find themselves in and how it's killing your profitability. So you won't want to miss it. Until next time, keep building.
Been a good one for sure, guys. Until next time, happy hunting, everybody.
Thanks for watching. Now get back to work.